sheeple, lazy and evil. For years I've watched y'all allow Donald Trump turn you to crazy people. Where's that freedom eagle when you...
Rampage, October 8th, 2021. Welcome to the season premiere of 3 Count Commentaries. I'm going to keep saying it. In any event, let's talk about Rampage. So, we start the show with CM Punk versus Daniel Garcia. Mark Henry has a promo. Asked these guys, why did they attack CM Punk in Chicago? What was going on? Garcia said because CM Punk is a phony. Then 2.0 cut in and says that 7 years ago he quit the business because it stopped being about him. Garcia then says, and you're back now because it's all about you again. And he says, if you were 23 years old, what would you do? What would you be doing? You know, you would be trying to make a name for yourself and all that stuff, right? Punk said that he didn't leave the world of pro wrestling. Pro wrestling came back to him. That a 23-year-old CM Punk wouldn't be hanging out with the Nasty Boys' little brothers. Then said he's going to give him a lesson and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's all very flat. It was a good attempt by Garcia and 2.0 to be good heels and make a good point that CM Punk is all about his ego. Of course, CM Punk no-sold it because why should he sell it? Why take anything people say to you seriously? He blew off everything that they said, even though there was a tinge of truth in it. And there's definitely something that could have been built off of that. You know, it definitely could have been something built off of that. And, you know, what if they had cut this promo 2 weeks ago? You know, instead of having that useless match with Hobbs, and look, I love Hobbs, but instead of having that useless match with Hobbs or something like that, they could have done Punk in the ring with Daniel Garcia, and they cut this promo in front of a live audience, where Daniel Garcia got to say that, yeah, you left not because, you know, injuries or anything like that. You left because you found out it wasn't going to be about you anymore. And now you saw an opportunity to steal the spotlight from everybody else, and therefore you came back. I think people would have been like, ooh. And it would have made a bigger build-up for this match, I think. And you still could have done the match with Hobbs some other time. But I think that, you know, this was the one with the more immediacy. And this one could have built some heat. You know, this could have been the feud with heat. But CM Punk, of course, then when he does mention it, he blew off the heat. And then it's literally 2 minutes before they go out to the ring and have the match anyway. So, whatever. The match was okay. I saw a lot of people acting like it was the best match ever. It's the best match CM Punk has ever had. And I was just kind of like, no. Well, it's not the best match he's ever had, but the best match he's had in AEW yet. I still think that the match with Darby was better. Again, this match was a foregone conclusion, so it was just an exercise of let's see what the young boy can do. And that's really all it was. And to be quite honest, Daniel Garcia is not interested enough for me to sit still and give him, 15 minutes maybe of my time. It's like, you have to, where's the hook? You know, and I don't mean Taz's son. I mean, where's the hook for me to watch Daniel Garcia? He's as plain as dry toast. There's no, I don't care how young he is. Stop telling me about the young boys. Who cares if he's young? The fact is, he's not interesting. And we don't understand why he's hanging out with 2.0. If you're going to give somebody a match that has some time to it, I'm okay with that. And they're young and inexperienced. Okay. But make the match worth watching. Show me something that will make the match worth watching. Other than, hey, it's going to be a good wrestling match. Because, look, Drew Gulak is a hell of a wrestler. But that 22 minutes he had with Daniel Bryan, I'm telling you, I would never watch that again. There's just no reason to. You know? And I'm the kind of guy who will watch a wrestling match for the sake of watching wrestling matches. I like Ring of Honor. But I have to be realistic. When there's no chance of this guy winning, and then there's zero interest in anything he does because there's no real character to the guy, I have a hard time caring about this match, you know, and that was the hurdle that they had to get over. They had to get over the hurdle of, could they make me care about this match? And the answer was no. There was nothing that happened in this match where I thought, okay, CM Punk is in some real danger. You know? So it was all about, hey, patting the young boy on the back or patting him on the head saying, good try. Hey, your sharpshooter was really good. And it was. His sharpshooter was really good. Some of his facial expressions were okay too. Some of his selling is really good. He has the fundamentals down. He has the fundamentals of pro wrestling in terms of the basics, in ring stuff. But the real work does not begin until you come up with a character. Everybody knows this. This is why New Japan sends their young boys on excursion. Go find a character. We've taught you the basics. You know all the dojo stuff. You know how to work without only doing Boston crabs and drop kicks. That's the only thing you can do, or something like that in the New Japan system. They cut out all the flashy moves. You're not allowed to wear like loud tights or anything like that. Okay, you want to be a young lion? That's fine. Go on excursion and go on a journey, get some life experience, come up with a character, a motivation, a reason for being, and then come back, and you won't have to do as much, and you'll be over, and you could be positioned as a legitimate threat. In this situation, it's not even CM Punk versus the 1-2-3 Kid. It's not even not even Bret Hart versus the 1-2-3 Kid. It's more like Bret Hart versus Barry Horowitz. Like we haven't seen this guy win anything. They said, oh, he won matches on Dark. I'm like, I don't watch Dark. Like you have to stop super serving this really tiny audience and start taking into account that, other people are watching this show either casually or trying to watch this show casually. And there has to be something there that make people believe in Daniel Garcia. Otherwise, you're going to just have people saying he's garbage and moving on. He's too young to write off. He's 23. You can't just write him off. But they're not doing him any favors either. AEW doesn't do anybody any favors by not putting any pressure on him. He needs to go figure out a character, a personality. He needs to be able to talk. He needs to talk. If you were going to put him in this match with CM Punk and you knew you were going to do that, then you should have gave us the reason he was doing this and had CM Punk explain it. No, that's not true. That's not what happened. This is what happened. And then Daniel Garcia is like, no, you're here stealing from guys like us. You're stealing from Darby Allin. You're stealing from so-and-so, and you're stealing from them and stealing from them, and built this thing up from his perspective that CM Punk is a guy who's just coming in, riding the wave and taking away. Which is, since what AEW does anyways, listen to their fan base, quote unquote. They also listen to their haters, what they do with Dan Gilbert. They put their haters on TV to regurgitate some of the stuff that you see tweeted out at people and stuff like that. And then they have a response. They build a straw man. Why couldn't Daniel Garcia be the straw man for everybody who wants to see the young wrestlers? And he say all the stuff that you've heard people say. CM Punk is an old man. He's just showing up for a paycheck. He's not hungry. He doesn't really want it. Just put all that stuff in Daniel Garcia's mouth. And then he can talk about how much he wants it, where he's been, and how he hasn't done that much because he's very young. But his plans were, this is finally an opportunity for somebody like me, where I don't have to go through a developmental system. I could be who I am. I don't have people trying to change me, yada, yada, yada. And then, boom, here comes you. Here comes all these other guys. You're all old and washed up. You don't have it anymore. Get out of here. Or something to that effect. That's just coming off the top of my head. Instead, we got CM Punk basically blowing off whatever they said and calling 2.0 the Nasty Boys' little brothers. And then he goes out there and beats them by submission. So, the match was fine, though. In fact, the match was inoffensive. There was nothing in it that I rolled my eyes at. Daniel Garcia is a solid worker. But that's really all he is. He's a good hand. And he has the potential to be a lot more. He doesn't need to know any more fundamentals. He needs to learn the character. He need I'm telling you, once you learn how to do wrist locks and stuff like that, once you got that stuff down, you can do that stuff without killing somebody or without killing yourself. You need to immediately move into learning how to do character. I'm not saying learn how to sing and dance and all that kind of shit. What I mean is you need to learn, who you are. You need to go find out who you are. and whatever that means, and work on it from there. And people think that, he's going to be a star. It's like, not in this situation. Not if you keep talking about his potential and not talking about what he's doing currently. Everybody treats these young boys, Sammy Guevara and Darby and MJF, they treat them like their little brothers. It's like, or they treat them like infants. Like when you see an infant find out, like, what is this? It's a square, and it really is a square. You're like, wow, you know what squares are. It's like, yeah, he's a baby. He's learning. It's impressive at first, but over time you learn, like, yeah, babies learn how to count, and they know what squares and circles are. If you are a wrestler, okay, you can do wrist locks. You can do takedowns. You can do cool counters. All right, I'm not patting grown men on the head because they can do the very basics of their job. Okay, what more can you do? Take it to the next level. Let's see how many levels you got, because that's really what I'm looking at here, is how many levels do you really have. Some people can't do any of this shit that Daniel Garcia can do physically. I've seen The Rock has a worse sharpshooter than Daniel Garcia, without a doubt. Daniel Garcia's sharpshooter was fantastic. It was awesome. What does it mean in the long run? Absolutely nothing. This is what we should be talking about. Like, hey, do more with this kid. Show me his personality. Show me what he can do. Highlight him. Create something for him. Build something around him. Instead of just having CM Punk beat him up. We knew CM Punk was going to win this match. Chris Jericho yelled that CM Punk is a trained MMA fighter. And the only thing that I heard was Gorilla Monsoon in the back of my head. Will you stop? Jericho was driving me nuts. Jericho was driving me absolutely insane. He was driving me up the wall. In the main event especially. I was ready to dig a hole and jump in it. It was so bad. Jericho is so bad. He is so bad on commentary. Jesus, he's bad. He's awful. He's awful. In any event, let's go to the next segment. Oh yeah, did I say that CM Punk versus Daniel Garcia was okay? It was okay. I didn't think it was great. I just thought it was all right. It was serviceable, I guess. So Tony Schiavone's with Dante Martin, Leo Rush, and Matt Sydal. At first it looked like Leo Rush and Matt Sydal were hugging, and that they were, having a good time. Then Matt Sydal said that that Leo Rush is like a junk bond salesman. A junk bond salesman? And Leo Rush was like, "What do you seem like the kind of guy who could improve his value? What if I could get you a match with CM Punk?" And then Matt Sydal said, "Oh, if you could do that, that would be great. I'm the kind of guy that can, that creates moments." And I was like, okay. And then we heard literally seconds later, the match has been made official. CM Punk versus Matt Sydal. And I was like, what? Why? Because Leo Rush got that kind of pull that he can maneuver CM Punk. Again, a match without any heat. No heat. I don't know, man. Look, I get it. They're trying to get the records of these guys, the CM Punks and the Bryan Danielsons. Try to get their records up. It's not like it matters anyway. Because I forgot to mention this. I believe I forgot to mention this about Dynamite, where the Lucha Brothers have an open challenge against El Idolo's mystery tag team. And I was like, oh, so 0 and 0 guys who probably don't even work there, who probably AAA guys to be quite honest, are going to wrestle for the tag team titles. Huh. Starks and Hooks don't get a tag team championship. I mean, Starks and Hobbs don't get a tag team championship match. I got all the tag teams that don't get tag team title matches. I don't know, man. Whatever. I need to learn to get over that kind of stuff, Speaking of the tag team championship, the Acclaimed came out. Matt Caster he's been neutered. There's everything safe about his promos now. For instance, he talked about he packing like Arn Anderson, and that the Lucha Brothers are going to be fake champs like Rocky Balboa. This match was okay too. You have to be a certain kind of guy to wear pink, and I don't believe Max Caster is that kind of guy. But this match wasn't great. It wasn't terrible, but you also in a position where the Acclaimed is not going to win. So it's all about how do they look, and they can't do the flippity doodahs like the Lucha Brothers. So they're mostly character guys, which is a good thing because that makes me more interested in what they're doing. And I've been more interested in the Acclaimed since the situation with Max Caster, but I don't watch Dark. And this is the first, I guess you could say, main roster match that they've had in a long time. And I still didn't feel like they were a legitimate threat and that they didn't do a good job. Again, this is part of the performance wrestling, is building to believable false finishes. Like sometimes you have to build a believable false finish. And that was a part of the problem with the CM Punk Daniel Garcia match, is that there was no believable false finish where I could say, oh no, Daniel Garcia might actually win. It would have taken a mountain of 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 territory in order to get me to believe that Daniel Garcia could beat CM Punk, but I didn't have any doubts in this match that the Acclaim were going to lose. So again, it was just another exercise in athletics. Let's watch Phoenix do his flippity doodahs. Let's just watch Zero Miedo. And if you enjoyed that kind of stuff, and then it works. But it has to be from both sides. It has to be from both camps. There needs to be something there from both camps. And they didn't do a really good job with the Acclaimed in terms of making them feel like a legitimate threat to the Lucha Brothers. Mainly because this match was just made, again, without any heat. There was no heat for this match. There was no reason for this match to actually happen. So, the Acclaimed win, or the Acclaimed lose, rather. The Lucha Brothers win. The match was all right. Just all right. We got a vignette for Hangman's return, which is cool, I guess. Then the third match is a squash match. Jade Cargill defeats Sky Blue with Jaded. Jade Cargill says that Sky Blue isn't TNT Championship material. After the match was probably about a minute and a half. After the match, Jade Cargill continues to stomp Sky Blue after the match. I said after the match like 4 times. In any event, Thunder Rosa comes down to the ring with a chair to break all of this up. Jade Cargill bails. I'm telling you, I'm going to say it again, this time in the shorter video. Jade Cargill is going to win the TBS title, and they're going to scream at the top of their lungs, "The first black champion in AEW, Jade Cargill!" And then Big Nasty going to have to find a whole new thing to complain about in his Forbes articles. Because he ain't going to be able to play the race card anymore. Right? Wrong. In any event, Mark Henry is talking to Starks and Cage. Starks says that he's already proven that he's on a different level than Brian Cage. And tonight, he's going to whoop his ass. I'm going to whoop your ass. Cage says that he hasn't proven anything except for that he likes to run away. And this match has been a long time coming. And that he's finally going to deal with Team Taz. So the main event, Brian Cage versus Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks wins the match with the Rochambeau, which is basically, I think it's like a Dominator. So this match was okay. This match actually had heat because these two guys have been feuding for a long time. It was interesting, I'm not a fan of Brian Cage, so that was, that didn't look good for me. Jericho and Taz were yelling at one point. We'll get to that in 1 second. But there was a point in this match where there was a believable 2 count. Well, actually, it shouldn't have been believable because Ricky Starks is very small. But he hit him with a spear, I believe it was. And it was like 1, 2, Brian Cage kicks out. So then Starks, in excellent fashion, like old school Christian. Like, you remember when Christian first went solo and he would lose and he would throw a temper tantrum? So Ricky Starks got a 2 count and he threw a temper tantrum. He grabbed the metal pipe, which I'm guessing is just plastic, and he hits Brian Cage with it in the ribs like 3 times. And Brian Cage did not sell it either time. He just bat, bat, bat. And Brian Cage just kind of laid there. I know he probably wasn't expecting it, but, he buried the object. Then of course he was on his feet seconds later because nothing matters. It's just small little attention to detail that, you know, guys don't sell what they can't see. Like it's something hitting him and he's not trying to sell it. But then again, his back is turned too, so he probably thought that it was Ricky Starks hitting him with his hands. Still would have sold that, you know. But why? Cause should he? Brian Cage is a giant meat castle, and Ricky Starks is small. You know, that's just an interesting thing there. Anyway, Taz is on commentary. Send Hobbs! Send Hobbs! Send Hobbs! And then Hobbs runs down to the ring wearing spray painted overalls. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Does he wear his clothes backwards too? Like, what is this 1992? Like, what is why is he wearing spray painted overalls? In any event, he he distracts Brian Cage. He comes down there and Brian Cage bumps him. Jericho, send Hook! Send Hook! Send Hook! And I'm like, oh, please kill me. Kill me now. Kill me now, man. Bury me on farmland. Fuck. Jericho, why is he screaming in my head? Why is this happening? Why is this taking place on national television? Jericho is awful. You know, if he wasn't in character, he might actually be not that bad. But as this yelling Jericho, he's horrible, man. It's the shits. It's gotta stop. It's gotta stop. So Starks tries again to spear Cage. He ends up hitting his head on the chair. He ends up bleeding. Hobbs distracts Cage. This leads to the Rochambeau, and Ricky Starks remains the FTW champion. And I think I went on a pretty 4 or 5 minute rant at some point about Kevin Owens and WWE. Right? If they don't want him, they just let them go. And I'm saying the same thing about Brian Cage. If you don't want this guy around because he's complaining and everything, just let this guy go. You know, it looks very strange that a guy the size of Ricky Starks lifted a guy like Brian Cage and then dropped him on his face, and that was it. You know, it was dirty. It was a dirty finish, but it's also a Philly street fight, so there was no rules. So I'm like, you know, there's 100 ways he could have beat Brian Cage instead of beating him flat like that and just flattening him with his finish like this. But Brian Cage, again, is an idiot who probably doesn't know shit about protecting himself or protecting the business or anything like that. So who cares what happens to him? But it was just odd. You know, it's just odd. And oddities, like that wrestling is full of oddities, you know. I mean, the Irish whip, for instance. You know, if you were a kid, no matter how much, you know, you talk about exposing the business, the Irish whip, nothing exposes the business like that. Why would you throw somebody and they come back? That doesn't make any sense, right? So, in this situation, of course, you have to suspend your disbelief. And I was just like, okay. Now, I love Ricky Starks. I have no problem with him. Great character. Can talk his ass off. Creative motivations. Doing everything the right way. This story, if it had the right people in it and it had the right amount of time and the right exposure for these guys, could have been so much bigger and better. They did something in the way of vignettes to keep this thing warm. But they really needed to express what they mean by Ricky Starks is on a different level than Brian Cage. And there's other ways they could have proven that, you know. And I'm cool with that they had the match and that Starks won, which I think is the right idea, to be quite honest. I don't think Brian Cage should have won this match. It doesn't make any sense for him to win. But I think that when you have a situation where you're trying to tell the story of who's the better man, that's something that kind of has to be reiterated again and again. Like, you have to, like, sure, Starks won the title from Cage, but he did so in a match where he had help. You know, now we could have done some stuff where, you know, of course, Cage is mad. He's chasing him around. And Starks is getting personal with him. I get that. You know, that the heat is there. What I'm saying is if they had been visible more over the last month or so, I think this thing would have been a bigger deal. But since they were cycled out, and It was like, well, I need to have a main event for this show, therefore just throw that match on this show. It kind of took away from it for me. And then Taz and Jericho screaming did me absolutely no favors. It didn't make me want to watch this shit. It made me want to turn the channel. It really did. And commentary being bad very rarely makes me want to turn the channel, but Jericho is at that point. He's not as he's nearing Josh Matthews levels of making me not even want to watch the show. He was that annoying on this show. And it's not 1999 anymore, so I'm not enamored with Jericho right now. I need them to turn it down. If he's going to be on commentary, he needs to turn it down and be normal. Add normal stuff to the show and stop screaming in people's heads. Stop doing it. All right, let me know what you guys thought of Rampage from October the 8th, 2021. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel, and I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.
Yeah. We're just gonna